So now we're all like back connected. So I'm excited about that. How was your Shabbat?
Our Shabbat was good. Ralph, we missed you last week. We waited and then yeah,
I
talked to
know.
Ralph.
I don't know. I don't know what was going on. I don't know. It was a crazy time, but you know what? We all had the desire. So that's the key thing. And Hashem does the rest.
No worries, no worries.
Yes.
All right,
We
cool.
understand.
Cool.
Shalom, Rav. Shalom,
Shalom,
Mariella, Brother
shalom,
Dan.
shalom, shalom, shalom,
Shalom.
shalom. So we're in this parsha. Are we waiting for more people, or this is the group we're gonna go with now? Should we wait?
No, I think we'll carry on. If they wish, they will join us, please.
Okay. So anyway, so we'll say like this. So we wanted to, thank Heath Root and Rivka for putting together this amazing class we've been doing for like over a year now. And it's, Jews in India, Jews in Indonesia, Zara, Israel, all different types of places. So, okay. So the thing is like this. So we just finished the book of Genesis, right? And the book of Genesis is a fascinating model because we start all the way from the beginning of creation, right? Which is like God, creating the heavens and the earth. And we end up with the Jewish people going into this place of Mitzrayim, right? And so you think about the contrast of that idea, that creation and all of everything that exists. And then we end up in this place where we're going to go in this process of concealment, this process of darkness, this process of the absence of, feeling the connection to God. But the way we started in the book of Genesis was only God, right? Vayomer Elohim ve'ahior ve'ahior, right? That's how we're starting off. God is speaking, and now we're going to this process where God is completely concealed, right? And when we see in this process of God perfecting humanity through the idea of Adam and then to Noah and the full perfection coming in the frame of Abraham, right? And so Abraham, has these descendants, right? And these descendants make up kind of like the spiritual framework for planet Earth, right? And so all that's going on, right? All these things are going on, all these things are happening. And so we're dealing with that. We're reconciling that, and we're saying like, why is God choosing to tell us these stories, right? All the stories, all the families, all the different situations on planet Earth. Like, why is God telling us these particular set of stories? And it has to be to some degree of benefit to us to know that. Okay, so we're accepting this idea, right? We're accepting the idea of Bereshit, this idea of beginning, the beginning of the system of spirituality in the era that we're living in now. And now we're going into this new era, which is this idea of the Exodus, the book of Shemot. And as we've been talking about since the beginning of this class, when we look at the idea of looking around us, right? And seeing God, around like everything that we're doing, like we're learning the Torah, but the system of the Torah is expressed in the world around us, right? Okay, it's a book. And you have to honor and respect. And wow, this book is the gateway to understanding all things that are going on around me, right? But the Torah is like how we live, right? Like even like Shabbat, right? Like what is the concept of Shabbat? Like Shabbat is like all these rules and this, you could do this, you could do that. And we want to perfect those rules or express them with perfection during Shabbat because we want to connect to the Almighty. We want to receive all the benefits of Shabbat. But what about the week, right? Every day there's a specific, connection, right? Every day there's a specific light that's revealed, right? They said Chaya Sarah lived all of her days, right? And so this idea is like, what does it mean to live a day? Especially when we know if a person is devoid of God in this Torah, the system of the Torah, the mitzvot, is as if they were not alive, right? The person is devoid of the Torah says they're not alive. They're not in the light force of creation. So Sarah lived all of her days, so she was connected to the light force of Hashem all of her days, right? And that's what we're learning out by the life of Sarah, Chai Sarah, right? That she was connected to Hashem. And she grew in enlightenment, right? So what she knew, on after 20 years of marriage with Abraham was much different than she knew before. But either way, the Torah says she still lived all of her days, right? So that would include before Abraham, right? So that's the uniqueness of Sarah. But the point is the same. She wasn't judged at the same level, right? She wasn't judged at the same level when she was Sarai as she was a Sarah, right? It was different levels, different madrigas. Anyways, so the point is like this. So we understand this whole process of Bereshit, and we're looking at nature around us, and we're saying like, wow, we're in a time of concealment, right? We're in a time where it looks like everything isn't growing, everything's in a place of concealment. The winter Celsius, we just had a Hanukkah, this whole thing, creating light in the darkness is where we're at right now. And then all of a sudden the Torah drops us miraculously in Egypt. But this is like, it's a similar thing what's going on around us right now. Right now the Torah is outside. The Torah is happening around us all the time. The sun, the stars, the moon, the planets, the energy influences, everything. This is the Torah. The book is just explaining to us. We don't worship books, right? We're Israel. Hashem revealed himself to us in a physical sense, right? And we understood the non-physical through that physical expression. So the point is saying where this is we're at now. And so the point is to say, so we're going into Egypt, right? And so we're going into Egypt, and we're going into this reality where we created this whole process of purity through the month of Elul, of Tshuva, through or even go back further through the fast of the 9th of Av and the whole process, but starting the process in Elul, all the Tshuva we did in Elul, we did Rosh Hashanah, we had our days, we did Yom Kippur, we did Sukkot, we did all these things, right? And so all these things that we did cleansed us to levels we can't imagine. And we went into this process of the concealment in the month of Cheshvan, right? And then this month of Cheshvan, led us into this process of dealing with like this new reality that we have so many months of such revealment of light that we go in this month of Cheshvan, and it's not the same thing. It's a little bit aspect of concealment. And then so we go out of Cheshvan, and then we're going to Kislev, and then we go to the month of Kislev, and then Kislev is like, whoa, you know what? You're in concealment, but there's a tremendous light here, right? And now that we're out of Hanukkah, Baruch Hashem, we're in the month of Tevet, right? And this is the month of Avraham Avinu, right? This is the month of when the Babylonians first had siege on Yerushalayim, where I'm at right now, right? And so that dynamic is a huge concept, right? And so we want to be able to be aware where we're at inside of the Torah, but not just in the Torah, but in our lives, right? We want to be able to look at our lives and say, I'm in that process that I'm going into a place of Egypt where I have to go and acknowledge the narrowness of my ways so I can eventually evolve out of them. Okay, so when we think about the idea of the Israelites at this level, the Israelites are people that are in essence, traveling. They're like nomads, Bedouins. Their connection is to Israel, right? And they're going through these different processes of journeys to get there. And so because of this famine, now they're coming into this place of Egypt because one of their brethren, Joseph, has been able to gain power and create a place for them of comfort. And so they're coming to this place, right? And so they're coming into this place, and now that they're coming into this place, this is their new reality. So what is the challenge? Excuse me. What is the challenge? The challenge is how to deal with the ways of how we've been living as a nomadic tribe versus how we live and this new reality of a city, of a metropolitan, where we're surrounded by all these people and all these different ideas, all these different concepts. And it's just kind of how it is. I remember as a kid, my parents had such strong values and morals. We had those in the house, but as we got older, we went in other environments and people didn't see the world that way. They saw it differently. And we had to make decisions, what are we going to do? Right. So this is the challenge of the Jewish people right now. And this is the challenge that we're having right now in 2025. And so I'm going to bring some teachings from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And we're going to talk about and have a conversation, through his teachings about this idea of what it is, what is the way of Jewish information and non-Jewish information, right? Okay, so let's go. Okay. So let's start a little bit of Hebrew. So it says the Ikar HaShekel Hu HaShekel HaEmet Shel HaSedikei Emet. Woo. So what's the truth, huh? So it says Shei Al Yedei Ze Sheikh HaShekel Zokin. So it says like this: alien philosophies and ideology. So these are the teachings of Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Nassim, on these topics, and they just kind of like compiled it. This is kind of like, a mixtape of different teachings of Rabbi Nachman on different subjects. But it's important because we're going into the book of Exodus, and we want to understand what are the Jewish people up against. Is it just the slavery? Because sometimes we just think, oh, the slavery happened, they took advantage of us. No, it's because we separated in a certain way. So we have to strengthen that. The very things that we know our ancestors are going to be faced with, we have to strengthen ourselves as we go into this parsha or this book, right? So he says like this: alien philosophies and ideologies. Only true wisdom is wisdom. The only true wisdom is the wisdom of the Siddiqim. It's a big statement. He says it brings them to a lofty perception of God and gives them the power to communicate their perceptions to those who follow them. Compared with this wisdom, all the other ideological systems are utter foolishness. Hey, you know what? College, whatever you learned in college, secondary is meaningless connected to the wisdom of the Siddiqim, because the wisdom of the Siddiqim are connecting us to Hashem. He says, but because all of our many sins, it can happen at times that this genuine wisdom falls in the hands of the heathens and the forces of the Sitra Akra and other sides. Their newfound wisdom gives them the power of dominion, and the heathens gain the upper hand. God forbid. This is Christianity. This is other religions, Islam. He says, who can bear the sound of the great and terrible cry when the wisdom falls into the hands of the fools, to the fools afflict to be wise? Sorry. Dry throat. So anyway, so he says, and they try to adapt this genuine wisdom to their own purpose, as if it could be made part of their own ideology. So that was one of the conflicts, like one of the big things, like one of the big innovations in Judaism in terms of the teachings of Kabbalah, right? So some people believe that the teachings of Kabbalah, should be very concealed. The Torah itself should be concealed, because if the non-Jews get the wisdom, that they would use it for Avodah Zarah and other things, and it would bring destruction to the spiritual worlds, right? And so it was concealed. But then there's other people that say, in this era that we're in, the age of Aquarius, the area that we're in now, is that the kedusha of the wisdom would basically be disgusting to the people who would normally in past generation used it for wickedness. They don't even care about it because they're so satiated by the physicality. They don't even care, right? And so these other wisdoms came throughout history, and in essence, they took ideas of the Torah, right? So if you read the other quote unquote religions that exist, you'll be like, wow, certain parts sounds exactly like the Torah. And all of them claim to improve upon what was already created by God. And God never told us that other people were going to come and improve upon it. He never said that. but they have said it. And so this is the way that the world works. So it says like this. They have tried to adapt this genuine wisdom to their own purpose as if it could be a part of their own ideologies, as if their own foolishness had nothing to do with knowledge of God, and they start claiming that they alone are wise, and there is no wisdom greater than their own erroneous speculation. And as they are on the fallen genuine wisdom. He says God himself cries out because of this. Every Jew has a part to play in the task of identifying how this wisdom has fallen into their hands and can be separated from them and elevated in order to return it to its source. The ways to achieve this is through the acts of charity and kindness under the guidance of the inspiration of the Siddiqim. Chachmahu shoresh kol ha-davarim lakin siri kol achad leshemod ed shikolo. She says, and the wisdom is the root of all things. It says in Psalms, right? Chapter 104, verse 24. He says, one should always guard one's mind against false ideologies. In all the ways to achieve the fulfillment in life is through the pursuit of genuine wisdom, namely the wisdom of the Torah, which is concerned with godliness. Compared to all the other systems of ideologies that are sneered emptiness, they have nothing to do with the wisdom at all. So all these things you could say, this science, but us Jews, we say if it's not rooted in the basis of Hashem and understanding Hashem and involving and investing ourselves in Hashem, it's not wisdom. It says, Beishi ad Torah dad shekha mahashakel mitsu masamas etzel kol achad ve'achad. He says, when a person is born, his intelligence is limited. He begins to use it to think about how to service God and to starts growing. But if a person falls into the mind with alien ideas, their intelligence of their body is diminished, and it directs proportionate to the space taken up by the ideas. This unholy intelligence becomes a source of a kind of negativity and negative appetites and character traits. So they're saying, well, why do people disconnect from God? Why do people act ungodly? Why do people do things? And you're like, wait, how could you do that? Because the way that they understand the Creator is false, right? And the way that they understand the Creator is false, so that connects to their behavior, right? So when we fall into these false ideologies outside of God, outside of Torah, as much as college, great, Harvard, wow, God bless you. Cambridge, Oxford, Yale, Stanford. What do you want? Like, what does it matter? How do these organizations, how do these knowledges help you correct your soul? Right? Because the whole purpose of the tikkunim of the neshama is to be corrected in this lifetime. Right? We come in this world to be corrected. How do we correct ourselves? Through Torah and mitzvot. There's no other technology that shows us how to correct our souls other than the Torah and mitzvot. And we spend lifetimes and lifetimes correcting ourselves, right? And then eventually we correct ourselves, and then we become reincarnated in a later time, Mechayeh Hamatim, where we're reincarnated with a corrected soul. What does it mean, corrected soul? A soul that comes down into this world is in a place of sharing, right? It's sharing. But once it enters the body, it develops this intelligence called the desire to receive for oneself alone, the desire to receive. Right? This is what the sages teach. And then the purpose of creation was ultimately for the soul to come down into this world, achieve a correction, and go back up to the Creator, its original source, and its perfected state, and be one with the Creator. So the lifetime, the experiences of our life are there as a process to put us on a series of experiences that allow us to perfect our soul, to be able to eventually become one with the Creator. And it may take us 5 lifetimes, 10 lifetimes, maybe 1 lifetime, whatever. The point is the same. It's a process, because this is the point of creation, right? And so this dynamic of changing ourselves and working on our character traits, this is the mechanism, right? This is the mechanism. And so the reality is like this. The world was already designed before we were born. So the future reality, when we're totally connected to Hashem, is already there, right? It's like next year, there's going to be an NBA championship game, and there's going to be an after party. Who the team is, what's the situation, how they got there, we don't know yet. But the whole thing is already set up, right? And so all we're doing is just joining in to what's already created. And our way of participating in the resurrection of the dead is by using the Torah mitzvot to correct our neshama. And by correcting our neshama, we're going to be able to achieve the purpose of why we were created in this lifetime. And as we achieve the purpose of creation in this lifetime, we go up to the heavens, and then we're going to be resurrected in a collective. Our souls are going to be brought down into this world, and we're going to get the bodies that we left this world with. So say a person was in a war in like the 1400s or something somewhere, and he lost an arm. He's going to be reincarnated in Mechai Hamatim without that arm. But God, and all the souls are resurrected, he's going to heal all the people in front of them. And he's going to give them a new body, right? And this new body that he gives to them is going to be a body that is connected to the aspect of sharing. The body we have now is connected to the dynamic of receiving, and that's why the soul and the body has conflict. But in the future reality, the body is also going to have the soul of the dynamic, the energy, intelligence of receiving, in conjunction with the soul that already corrected itself prior. That's how it's able to experience this new reality of the resurrection of the dead, because it did the work prior. And so now this new body that they connect to is a new reality, right? And so this is it. So it says, okay, so this wisdom, right? So we can't compare these things. So it says, Bi sha'ad hol dada shakel mitzu mitzav atzel kol achad ve'echad. Okay, I think I read this. I'll read it again. He says, when a person is born, his intelligence is limited, he begins to think about how to serve God. It starts growing. But if a person's mind is filled with alien ideas and intelligences of his holy soul is diminished, it is directed proportionate to the space taken up by these ideas. This is the unholy intelligence, and it becomes the source of all kinds of negative appetites and character traits. Al-kin kol ha'adam leisha more. Emod ed shekalot she unazar umma chashevetod shelo. So he says, and this is why a person must be careful to guard his mind and his thoughts, and make sure that he never omits alien ideas or ways looking at them. All of our problems and defects and sins come from the abuse of the sanctity of our mind. The mind is everything. The mind, the makshava, the thinking process, is the beginning of creation. So if the beginning of your mind is not connected to the right source, you're going to have alien thoughts that are going to create corruption. God forbid, by omitting the alien thoughts and ideologies, to achieve the true independence and to make amends for all the sins, one must clean the mind of all of these alien ideas. That the wisdom and intelligence are actually the wisdom and intelligence actually are the souls, by clearing the mind of alien theory, ideologies, and faculties through the elevation of the source. And this is the essence of the returning to God. Removing all the false thought processes to our reality. This is what we're talking about. When the Jewish people adopt the ideas and look out, it says Ka Yisrael Nekasima, it says Bechachamot. He says when the Jewish people adopt the ideas and the outlooks of the other nations. God forbid the Siddiqim fall from his level, and his perceptions are covered over and obscured. Rebbeinu. No, so it says it says Ribuni Chachmatot Be Sefarat Chachmatot Hara Fil Solo Fiya. So he says too much intellectual sophistication, it can be harmful, especially when people take the form of excessive philosophizing or philosophizing and speculations. The base of true wisdom is a strong heart and strong character. The only way to obtain them is through good deeds. A person whose intelligence outstrips his practical obtainments in the form of good deeds will lack strength of character to contain his intelligence with necessary bounds. His intelligence will only make him sin. And it will be like these people are too smart for God, right? These people are too smart for God. They figured it out. They figured it out. And he says, and this could be very dangerous when people are lax morals and standards, dabbling in philosophy. There's intelligence drive them on an even greater transgression, and it is harm and it harms them, and indeed the entire world more than all the snakes and scorpions, wild animals, and the other dangerous things in the world. They use their intelligence to hurl insults and abuse at the heavens and to cast as persistence on the Holy Torah and and especially the sages of the Talmud and the Siddiqim of blessed memory who follow them. Well, all of this is known. May God in his mercy take pity on the remains of Israel and guard them from the band of people and their babblings. Ma shehagav Hashem. So he says, and within the bounds of God has set the demands of intelligence in the great mitzvah, a positive duty, and to sharpen the mind and the understanding as clearly as possible whenever the human being is capable of grasping. However, there are certain questions and answers to which are beyond beyond the capacity of the human mind to understand. Only in the time to come will all answers be revealed. An example of an example is the paradox of free will. On no account should one delve into these questions of those who rely on their own intelligence and speculation, and it is not that go into her return. It is impossible to solve these questions through reason. We must have pure faith. And when it comes to the questions which we have an answer, there are times when the paths of the intellect become blocked, and one is unsure to answer the unbeliever speaking in one's heart. This is like this is just fires that, and so he says, in the remedy, and he says the remedy, and he says the remedy is to study the code of Torah law. He said to study the code of Torah law, and he says the Torah law, and he says that one finds himself confused and unable to understand the way and to answer the questions. One should rely on faith alone, even here. He says, "Oh my gosh, that didn't just happen, did it?" Sorry. Okay, so sorry about that. Just went off for 1 second. Okay, hold on. We covered a lot of ground. Hold on. Okay, so, jeez. Okay, sorry about that. And so it says, however, at these times after you, okay, so Acts. Whoa. Okay, so he says the materialistic philosophers who claim everything operates by the virtue of the laws of nature are a breed of wild animals who have made terrible inroads into our people and have caught many of our sons in their clutches. So he's going against the philosophers. Many Jewish souls are sunk into this in the many Jewish souls are sunk in this like birds caught in a snare. If you love the soul, you will keep away from these wild beasts. He's referring to these secular ideas. He said these wild beasts who otherwise snatch your soul and consume it. Keep well away from the books of the speculative sciences, even those written by our own great sages. Ooh, and there's no greater evil. And so he says, Al Yedei Sadacha Mi Vatlina Kochal Vahanachash. So he says the acts of kindness and the power that break the forces of the serpent, which is the root of the materialistic ideology. And when these animals have no more power over you, however, at times, even if you will have crushed them and you so soon go back again, pushing forced doubts into your mind about whether the world is governed by the goodwill. If this happens to you, you must make efforts to efforts like charity and kindness. If you get overcome by this, you catch yourself. Clarity has the power to subdue the ideologies of materialism and reveal that everything is governed only by the will of God. Yeah, ikar ha'avodah, sorry, I mean, he rach yedeh. So he said the service of God is with simplicity and purity, using no sophistication at all, is the true goal. No one who goes in the name of no one who goes by the name of Jew should ever use such an open book of philosophy. This is not the part of the heritage of Jacob. All this sophisticated philosophy contains the stumbling blocks of Amalek, which is the calculations to make the people fall. In one moment, one can lose the whole world. There is no greater evil. Even even the books written by Jews discussing the speculative philosophy should be left alone, because they can harm the holy faith, which is the root of everything. Thank God we have today many holy books which are filled with the sound guidance and the fear of God, which are the free of all speculations derived from the wisdom of the Greeks. They are firmly founded in the holy words of the sages in the Talmud and Midrash, in particular the books based on the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Explore them and go through them again and again, and you shall have nothing to do with the books of the viewpoints of the other nations. So this is an interesting point. So you see the connection between the process of the Jews during the times of the Maccabees and fighting against the Greeks that wanted to remove the Torah Shabbal Peh, wanted to remove the traditions of the Jewish people, wanted to make us into a foreign religion, right? And then you see that idea of happening during this time where the sun is so far away from the earth, and the days are shorter, and everything is concealed, and it is cold, and things are not growing. And then we see that, and we see this process of going, our ancestors before the Maccabees going into the same process and having not the same success, right? We went into Mitzrayim and we didn't know. We had no experience of this before. We had no ability to resist, right? And so now we see this dynamic of how we failed, and eventually, but God gave us Yeshua and brought us out through Pesach. He brought us out through Pesach. He brought us redemption. He brought us out the salvation through Pesach, right? And so we see that we build upon the ancestors. When we failed at, right? When we failed at, where ancestors failed at, we should have success, right? So it says like this. He says, "Be nayayin ha kadush." She says, "Ha kid sorry, ha kish yod asher kasher v'sha Hashem yid varek." So he says like this. We'll end it here. He says there are many searching questions about God, but anyone who has even a minuscule genuine understanding will see that it is only the right and fitting that such questions should exist. For how can we, with our limited human intelligence, understand God's governance over the world? Of course, there are things that baffle us. In the utter greatness of the exaltedness of God are only magnified when we find that when there are questions we cannot solve. Understand this well. So he's saying, like, here, the idea is to say that the greatness of God is the greatness of God is understood in the ways that we understand so clearly. It makes so much sense. And also in the dynamic of not understanding at all, right? And so when we go into this book of Exodus, let's not look at it as like, oh, another book of the Torah, we're reading new stories. No, we're looking at another chapter of our existence. Genesis was an aspect of our existence. The whole nature, the whole physicality, the holidays, everything that we did was connected to this total amazing revealment. Now we're in a time of concealment, right? And so this time of concealment allows us to be able to look at our lives and look at who we are when God's not in front of us, right? Like, everyone could act holy when everyone's watching, everyone's around, but what happens when no one's around? What happens when everything is concealed, right? And God is not there? What do? Do we give up? Do we follow the ways of the Gentiles, of the heathens? We start taking their sciences when we start suffering, right? Because right now we're going into Egypt, in the Torah. So what do? Right? And so this is what would happen when things get dark. We say, hey, I got to do what I got to do, right? People say this, I got to do what I got to do. I know what the Torah says, but I got to do what I got to do. This is the darkness. So with that, we learned from Rabbi Nachman, but the Rabbi Nachman is to give us a concept to understand what stage we're going into our life, and to say how much of God's will are we going to accept even through the process of concealment, right? And this is the process of slavery. And this is what our ancestors went through in Mitzrayim, and they purified this aspect of our soul, but we have to connect to it through our connection to Israel, right? Through our connection to Israel, we got to connect with what our ancestors went through, and that purification they went through in Mitzrayim as we prepare ourselves for Purim and Pesach. Any statements, any ideas from anybody?
My
Rav,
sharing,
Rav,
Rabbi. Go ahead.
yeah,
Rivka.
thank you, Brother Leslie. Rav, what is your opinion on this? Even though many Jews have made aliyah to Israel, okay, but even those who are still in Israel, they are somewhat in Mitzrayim, so to speak.
100%. Until Mashiach comes, we're not in Mitzrayim. We're not in
So
Mitzrayim, Badaka. We're in Israel, but we're still in the Galut. We're still in the Galut. So until Mashiach comes, that's why on Pesach we say next year in Yerushalayim. But we could see that we're in the times of Mashiach. So this is the time to make Aliyah.
So
What
you
happens
think that okay, go on, Brother Leslie.
now? What happens to those who don't want to do Aliyah?
It's okay. You don't have to do. You're okay.
So,
You're still going to be
good
redeemed.
question, like myself.
No, but I'm saying you're still gonna be redeemed. You're Jew, so it doesn't matter. You're in India. You just got you got a little bit more of a journey. That's all. But you're redeemed too. All the Jews are going to be redeemed everywhere, no matter where you're at.
What about the seculars, Rabbi?
The what?
The secular Jews who do not believe in anything.
The thing is they talk about the idea of Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, right? And they said the Ephraim and Manasseh are not just two, of Joseph's sons, but they represent the prototype of the Jews who are going to be scattered around the world after the temples were destroyed, the first and second temple. And the word Manasseh can be derived to the word to understand the meaning to forget, right? And Ephraim means fruitful, to be a lot, to have a lot of fruitality, right? And so they said during the end of days that there's going to be Israel, descendants of Jacob, Zerah Israel, all over the world, and they won't even know. Many of them won't even know that they're descendants of Jacob. They have no idea. And they said even those people are going to be redeemed, right? So the people who have an ideology that may not follow mainstream Judaism and they may have a tradition themselves, if they love Hashem and they seek to do righteousness, they're just as holy as us, you know. It may be a different way of expressing it, but they're going to be redeemed as well. All of the children of Israel will be redeemed, even if they don't even know that they're children of Israel. They may think they're Muslim, they may think they're Christian, they may think they're Buddhist and Taoist or whatever, but they're going to be redeemed as well.
They are going to
So
be redeemed as well, because they are Zerah Yaakov.
Yes, exactly.
what happens to the others, Rabbi, the non-Jews?
Yeah, the people who are righteous. That's the key thing. There's no Jews and non-Jews. I mean, you could say yes, there is for sure. There's Jews and non-Jews, but what I'm saying is, when it comes to the perfection of the world, many of the people that are not considered Jewish turn out to be Zerah Israel. Now, if you're saying the world that's not connected to Yaakov versus the world that's connected to Yaakov, then say that, right? But if you say Jewish and non-Jewish, then it's like, okay, but what about all the people who are Zerah Israel, the seed of Yaakov, that are Muslim right now, that are Christian, right? So I think the proper way to look at it is that there are righteous people amongst many nations. Many of them happen to be descendants of Israel, right? And so many of those people who live righteously, who do things to help others and remove hatred and violence, those people are going to be redeemed as well. But if you say Jewish, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Like, I mean, the Ethiopians, were they Jewish 100 years ago? You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying in terms of people understanding who they were. Now we learned about them, right? We learned about them. So now, okay, the Ethiopians are Jewish. Okay, you guys in India, okay, B'nai Manasseh, B'nai, these different things. Okay, fine. So we can't look at the say of who's Jewish. We have to look at God is going to reveal who the people who are descendants of Jacob are. And there's people in India, there's people in Africa, there's people in Asia, there's people in Europe, there's people in the West, that are descendants of this. So that's where we're at. We're there. We're all this, but at a certain level, only Hashem can tell us, right? So that's the point. So we have to live righteously ourselves. We know who we are as individuals. We have to live righteously, but we can't look at other people when they come out of nowhere and say, hey, I'm connected too, and I want to keep the Torah. We can't turn them away, right? Imagine if some people did that to the Jews in India, right? Oh, no, you guys are different than us. You look differently. You speak differently. Oh, okay. No. No, this is, the tradition is that, the Jews were in the four corners of the world. So that's this idea of looking at the people who live in righteousness, who live in righteousness and who want to live peacefully with others and do good, is to say, like, hey, it's a very good chance that they're connected to Israel, and for sure they are if they say, hey, please help us keep the Torah.
Final question, Rabbi. Many rabbis say that the Mashiach is near. What's your opinion?
Yeah.
What's
definitely tomorrow. I'm ready for Mashiach tomorrow. I'm ready to wake up. Mashiach is here, and then war, peace. All the war is done. Bro, I'm living in a war. I'm from America. I'm from Los Angeles. What do I know about ballistic missiles? What do I know about drones? Right? What I know about people coming over and just killing people in broad daylight, thousands, right? right? We got
Mm.
gang violence. Gang violence is like 2 people got shot. You know what I mean? Like, wow, let's do something about it. No, bro, they're taking out 1,000 people one day, 24 hours, right?
Mm.
So this is a
Yep.
whole nother reality. So yes, Mashiach, yes, tomorrow, immediately. Immediately, people are suffering. There's hostages, family, all of Israel. We've been suffering since October 7th. Hasn't stopped,
Yep.
right? The hostages, every day we're suffering from the hostages. Every day we're hustling. The whole is it's like a yoke, right? So 100% Mashiach
Mm.
immediately, and we need to be more religious. We need to take more focus on the mitzvot, the halakha, how to do it inside of our houses, how to operate it, how to talk about it amongst like-minded people, right? We need to be more religious, and the more religious that we are, we send a greater vibration to people around the world who are descendants of Yaakov that don't know it, and all of a sudden they feel a vibration, and they go looking for a rabbi to guide them the right way. That's what I was,
Mm.
right? Some Jew out there did such a mitzvah that it woke me up, and I was like, whoa, you know. So that's a bit, and look where I'm at now, right? So
Yep.
it's just saying that we just got to continue on. I'm gonna daven mincha. Any more questions?
That I'm good. We are good. Thank you, Raf.
Thank you. All right, so we'll continue on tomorrow, B'vat Hashem, but we should go in looking at this Torah portion and to look at the dilemma of what is holy by God and what is this the outside world is trying to convince us of. And unfortunately, when we go into the book of Exodus, we see that many of our brothers fell into a lot of the Egyptian philosophies and ideas and ultimately became subjugated by them. Right. So we learn
Mm.
from them that through the story of Hanukkah, as we resist this dynamic of the secular world, we learn through the Maccabees, the opposite, right? But it's in the same time frame that we can be the Maccabees in the situation, right? And not necessarily fall into the trap that our ancestors did, but rather benefit from the learning from our ancestors and to be able to not just look at this Torah portion as something that we're reading in a book, but a phase that we're going to go into our lives and this reflection of the stars and the cosmos and the effect on planet Earth and everything connected. And so as this process, the Torah is teaching me and allowing me to create